Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janam Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janam Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavika Acharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavika Acharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Dhanottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So on the 17th day of July, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 18, Lord Vamanadeva, the Dwarf Incarnation, and text 2 through 5. So I'll read 2, 3, and 4 myself. I think the Sanskrit is auspicious. We'll chant that too. even the ones that we're not going to chant together. Shama Vadato Jasaraja Kundala Trishola Satri Vadanam Bhujakpuman Shri Vatsavaksha Balayanga Dolasat Karita Kanchi Gunachad Hunuparaha. The body, so she's describing the Lord now, who just appeared. The body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, blackish in complexion, was free from all inebrieties. His lotus face, decorated with earrings resembling sharks, appeared very beautiful, and on his bosom was the mark of Shrivatsa. He wore bangles on his wrists, armlets on his arms, a helmet on his head, a belt on his waist, a sacred thread across his chest, and ankle bells decorating his lotus feet. Madhuvrata vrata bagushtayasraya virajitakshi vanamalaya harihi Prajāpati Vaishmatamak Svarochisha Vinashayan Kandanavishta Kaustubha. An uncommonly beautiful garland of flowers decorated his bosom, and because the flowers were extremely fragrant, a large group of bees, making their natural humming sounds, invaded them for honey. When the Lord appeared wearing the Kaustubha gem on his neck, his effulgence vanquished the darkness in the home of Prajāpati Kaśyapa. So this, tell me if I'm wrong, but this is not in the form of Vamanadeva yet, right? This is Narayan that he's speaking of. Or is he? Narayan. Text 4. Dishak prasedu salilas sheyastada prajak parishta ritavo ghanan vitaha dhyavantadiksham chitid agnijihva gabo dvija sanjashur nagascha. At that time there was happiness in all directions, in the reservoirs of water like the rivers and oceans, and in the core of everyone's heart. The various seasons displayed their respective qualities, and all living entities in the upper planetary system, in outer space, and on the surface of the earth were jubilant. The demigods, the cows, the Brahmins, and the hills and mountains were all filled with joy. And then, text 5. Shonayam Shavana Dvadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyast Chakrus Tarjanma Dakshinam. Okay, the first line's a little regular, 9 syllables, so. Shonayam Shavanam Vadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustar Janma Dakshinam. Shonayam Shavanam Vadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustar Janma Dakshinam. Shonayam Shavanam Vadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustar Janma Dakshinam. Shonayam Shavanam Dvadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustar Janma Dakshinam. Someone else? Shonayam Shavanam Dvadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustar Janma Dakshinam. Shonayam Shavanam Dvadasyam Muhurte Vijiti Prabhu Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash Chakrustad-janma dakshinam. Anyone online want to try? Guess not.
Yes, I want to try, but the first verse is so difficult.
You mean the first line? The first line.
The first line, yes.
It's just got it's got one syllable, one extra syllable.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Shronayam Shravana Dwadasyam.
Shronayam Shravanam Dvadasyam.
Muhurte Bijiti Prabhu.
Muhurte Bijati Prabhu. Now what? Cross it down.
Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash.
Sarve Nakshatra Taradyash.
Chakrustad Janma Dakshinam.
Chakrustad Janma Dakshinam. Shonayam. When the moon was situated in the Shravana lunar mansion. Shravana Dvadasyam. On the 12th lunar day of the bright fortnight in the month of Bhadra, the day famous as the Shravana Dvadasi. Muhurte, in the auspicious moment. I think we make that at the auspicious moment. At the auspicious moment. Abhijati, in the first portion of the Shravana lunar mansion, known as the Abhijit Nakshatra, and in the Abhijit Muhurta, occurring at midday. Prabhu, the Lord. Sarve, all. Nakshatra, stars. Tara, planets. Adyaha, beginning with the sun and followed by the other planets. Chakruhu, made. Tat Janma, the birthday of the Lord. Dakshinam, very munificent. Translation. On the day of Shravana Dvadashi, the 12th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Bhadra, when the moon came into the lunar mansion Shravana, at the auspicious moment of Abhijit, the Lord appeared in this universe. Considering the Lord's appearance very auspicious, all the stars and planets, from the sun to Saturn, were munificently charitable. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, an expert astrologer, explains the word nakshatra taradyaha. The word nakshatra means the stars, and the word tara in this context refers to the planets. And adyaha means the first one specifically mentioned. Among the planets, the first is Surya, the sun, not the moon. Therefore, according to the Vedic version, the modern astronomer's proposition that the moon is nearest to the earth should not be accepted. The chronological order in which people all over the world refer to the days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, corresponds to the Vedic order of the planets, and thus circumstantiates the Vedic version. Apart from this, when the Lord appeared, the planets and stars became situated very auspiciously according to astrological calculations to celebrate the birth of the Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is one of several places in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I know of one very kind of thorough passage in the Adi Leela describing Lord Chaitanya's appearance, where it gives all the different astrological circumstances and how they're all so auspicious. So this is the appearance of the Lord, and it's always auspicious. And if the things aren't just rightly situated, then because of his influence, it'll be like that way. That's why Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Krishna himself appeared, I think it says it was a full moon, But how could that happen? Because it seems to be the waning moon, but Krishna arranged it so that the full moon appeared. So this is what's being described here in the purport. Nakshatra means stars. Now this is a famous verse. I don't know the whole verse. Nakshatraram aham shashi in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada, the word says stars, and of stars I am the moon. So Prabhupada has a whole purport there describing how all the stars are moons. Then that means those stars out there that we see twinkling the Milky Way, they're all moons. In other words, they're all reflecting the light of our one sun, which goes completely against the scientists. We think some of them are galaxies even, whole galaxies. And they're suns in and of themselves, these stars. They have planets rolling around that they can see. So when the first editor was editing the Bhagavad Gita to bring out the Macmillan edition of the unabridged, he thought this is too much, and people will read this and they'll just throw the book away. So he just cut that paragraph out. And that was restored in 1883 by Jayaweda Swami. He said, we can't second-guess Prabhupada's astronomy. And so we surrendered to that they're those little stars out there reflecting the light of our one sun. So that's what the purport is in Prabhupada, especially because at his time in 1969 was supposedly the moonshot. That's when the moon supposedly, right, reached they reached the moon, and they walked around the moon, and they had video cameras and everything, so to speak. So, but Prabhupada said, how could they possibly reach the moon? The moon is farther than the sun. The sun is 93, accepted the scientists, 93 million miles away from the sun. So that is, but they go 94 million miles in 5 days, with their little rocket. No. So that was one of Prabhupada's arguments. It was a big thing at the time. Some devotees blooped about that because they just couldn't accept, that what they saw on TV wasn't real, that they were walking on the moon. So that it's faded pretty much. Although in these contexts, when they're talking about the sun and the moon, then Prabhupada brings it up again. All right, rather than dwell on that, let me go on to the next verse. Dvarashyam savitati madhyandina gato nupa vijaya nama saprokta yasyam janma vidruhadehi. O king, when the Lord appeared on Dwarashi, the 12th day of the moon, the sun was at the meridian, as every learned scholar knows. This Dwarashi is called Vijaya. Oh boy, now am I going to... All right. This is not going to work because I'm going to get into... There's no purports. All right, I'll just read 1 or 2 more verses. Conch shells, kettle drums, drums, panavas, and anakas vibrated in concert. The sound of these and various other instruments was tumultuous. Being very pleased, the celestial dancing girls Apsaras danced in jubilation. The best of the Gandharvas sang songs, and the great sages, demigods, Manus, Pitas, and fire gods offered prayers to satisfy the Lord. The Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, Kimpurushas, Kinnaras, Charanas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Suparnas, the best of serpents, and the followers of the demigods, all showered flowers on Aditi's residence, covering the entire house while glorifying and praising the Lord and dancing, even the Rakshasas. Pretty amazing. When Aditi saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had appeared from her own womb, having accepted a transcendental body by his own spiritual potency, she was struck with wonder and was very happy. Upon seeing the child, Prajāpati Kaśyapa exclaimed, "Jai, Jai," in great happiness and wonder. The Lord appeared in his original form with ornaments and weapons in his hands. Although his ever-existing form is not visible in the material world, he nonetheless appeared in this form. Then, in the presence of his mother and his father and mother, he assumed the form of Vāmana, a dwarf Brahmin. Not a Brahmin dwarf, a dwarf Brahmin. I explained that yesterday, remember? A brahmachari, just like a theatrical actor. Purport. The word nataha, okay, we got another purport. The word nataha is significant. An actor changes dress to play different parts, but is always the same man. Similarly, as described in the Brahma Samhita 533 and 39, the Lord assumes many thousands and millions of forms. Advaita Machuta Manadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham. He is always present with innumerable incarnations. Ramadi Murti Chikalani Yamena Tishtan Nanavatana Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. Nonetheless, although he appears in various incarnations, they are not different from one another. He is the same person, with the same potency, the same eternity, and the same spiritual existence, but he can simultaneously assume various forms. When Vamanadeva appeared from the womb of his mother, he appeared in the form of Narayan, with 4 hands equipped with the necessary symbolic weapons, and then immediately transformed himself into a brahmachari, Vatu. This means that his body is not material. One who thinks that the Supreme Lord assumes a material body is not intelligent. He has to learn more about the Lord's position. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. One has to understand the transcendental appearance of the Lord in his original transcendental body, Satchidananda Vigraha. Okay, so there's a purport that we can expand on. So this is it happens often like this, that the Lord appears as Narayan, and then he transforms himself into the Leela avatar that's necessary at the time. So this, you know the story we're going to read in the next week as the next classes come, that this Vamana appeared in this way, and he was this diminutive brahmachari. And we'll see that all the different demigods, they give gifts to him, you know, in honor of his appearance. And then he'll go to the sacrifice being performed by Bali. And he's in this diminutive, you know, pure brahmachari. Shukracharya can tell right away that this is actually Vishnu. And so he warns Bali, who he knows is very charitable, don't give him anything. Because you give him, he'll take, you know, you give him an inch, he'll take a mile, that whole thing. So Bali was aghast, because this Shukracharya, the great Brahman, had always said that we should offer everything to the Lord, or offer gifts to the pure brahmacharis. So he said, and you may not be able to see it, but he's Vishnu, and he'll take everything. So Bali, then one of the steps of becoming a Mahajan, he rejected Shukracharya. Said, now I reject you because you're saying I shouldn't give to this form of Vishnu. So he greeted the Vamanadeva, and Vamanadeva asked, so Bali said, whatever you want, I can give you. I can give you a planet, you know, because he was in the position of Indra at that time. So Vamanadeva asked for just 3 steps of land. And his Prabhupada says, but his soul was very, very small, meaning the sole of the foot. But when you hear it on the tape, he says, "Whoa, he's a small soul." Anyway, you know the story. So then, as soon as he gave him the 3 steps of land, he expanded into huge form. That with just 2 steps, he covered everything. Okay, so Prabhupada here is talking about the word nataha, an actor, changes dress to play different parts. So this, what do we sing? Isn't that part of the song? Nataraj, you know, there's a deity. First was carved in New Vrindavan. Nataraj, he's a dancing deity. I think it's unique. It was unique at that time anyway. And he went to Columbus, Radha Nataraj, and it's kind of unique in ISKCON. And so Krishna, he loves to dance. So he's known as Nataraj, the best dancer, the king of dancers. But Nata is also an actor, so it's a dancing actor. You know, the actors, they often dance, and they're enacting some lila by the dance, right? Isn't that what Bharatanatyam is all about? You're enacting pastimes. So the word Nata, you know, he's in that the role of a dancer, and he's in the Narayan form. So he changed his dress to play different parts, but always the same person. Similarly, he cites the Brahma Samhita, he assumes many thousands and millions of forms. Advaita Machutam Anadim endless. Ananta Rupam is unlimited forms. So to suit what is specific for a given pastime, and also to reciprocate with the devotees where they're at, you see. So he's in the Vishnu form. Those who are in the Dasya Ras, they're very happy, just, he's in that servant form. But those who want a more intimate relationship, in Goloka Vrindavan, then he assumes this human-like form, We're actually Krishna-like forms, right? And that human form is the original form, the two-handed form. So Krishna can do that. He's always present with innumerable incarnations. Ram Adi means Rama, etc. Kala Niyamena, according to Kala Niyamena. Kala is the art situated. Non-avataram, unlimited avatars. Nonetheless, although he appears in various incarnations, they are not different from one another. So this is the idea of the plenary expansion, that Krishna can have. And the most famous probably is his expanding into 16,108 forms to deal personally with each wife, right, with each queen. So that's very, very impressive, very divine. Only Krishna can do that. It's the same person, the same potency, the same eternity, the same spiritual existence, but he can simultaneously assume these various forms. So Vamanadeva appeared, he appeared in the form of Narayan. Now Krishna did the same thing. He appeared in the form of Narayan. And Prabhupada says, I think in the purport we read recently, or in the Krishna book, and you find in the story, that he appeared as a little baby with Narayan form, right? A little baby with the chakra and everything. And then he transformed himself into a regular baby. So that painting, shows the big Narayan and then the little baby. It's a little bit inaccurate, but that's become standard in ISKCON. And then he transformed him into little brahmachari. So the whole plan was, because he had to separate Bali from the shelter of the Brahmins, the Prajāpati, which is Shukracharya. Because by that shelter, he had become empowered. That's the whole idea. That's what Narayan told to Aditi, that I can't just go and conquer the demons. We're going to have to do it this way. And so this was his plan, and it worked perfectly. And then the demigods were able to get back their kingdoms. So one who thinks that the Supreme Lord assumes the material body is not intelligent. And there's one important verse that we should know, if you don't know the Sanskrit, at least know the idea. You know this one, Arche Vishnau Shiladhir Gurushanadapatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhir. What is it? What's the next one? Shri Vishnu, no, Vishnu Va Vaishnavanam Kalimalamathanam Padatirte Buddhi. You know this one, Sankarshan? Yes. Oh, Babu? Okay. And then it says, Vishnu, Shri Vishnu Namni Mantre Sakala Kalasha He Shabda Samanya Buddhi Vishnu Va Vaishnavanam, no, Shri Vishnu Sarveshwareshe Taditata Samadir Yasya Va Narakisa. Now what is a Naraki? Can anyone tell me? Huh? A resident of hell. So this is important, because this is a standard thing that people, misconceptions that people have. So the first one, Arche Vishnau Shiladir. That's just a stone statue you're worshiping. That's not God. This conviction is the atheist, thing like that. The doubters, sometimes the Mayavadis. Guru Shunadapati. The guru is just an ordinary man. You see? Krishna says the guru is not different from me, and that you have to approach and realize guru who's a necessary, probably called via medium, or just a medium, a pure medium that you can actually achieve Krishna without the guru. So an ordinary man is resident of hell. And Vishnu, Janma, what is it? Arche Vishnu Shiladu Gurushanamade Vaishnave Jati Buddhir. And to try to categorize Vaishnavas according to their birth. It's like Prabhupada would, I don't know if he would quote this verse, but it applies to that restriction that in Jagannath Puri, Westerners cannot go in a temple. Because you're born in the West. What's the proof? The white skin, you know. So you know who got into the temple? Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He dressed up as a, you know, Orthodox Hindu, whatever, you know. And he said, sure, come on in. Whereas in America, you know, you can't come in here. You have to go to the colored section, you know, during the time of just the opposite. So, you know, and more broadly, the Lord Chaitanya's, and he quotes, Prabhupada quotes, I think it's Narada Muni, and I don't know the Sanskrit, that if someone has the qualities and the activities of a Brahmin, he should be accepted as a Brahmin, even if he's born in a Sudra family. So what counts is guna and karma. That's in the Bhagavad Gita also. The qualities and the activities. So we can develop that. And that on that basis, Prabhupada came to Malaysia Desh, you know, and because he knew that if I can get him to chant Hare Krishna, become purified, then we can create Brahmins, and he did. You know, and not only Brahmins, but sannyasis. But, you know, when he took the sannyasis back to India, there was some criticism. You know, oh, you can't make, you know, the lechas into sannyasis, but they didn't know the philosophy. So that's a very important point, not to judge by the externals, but by the qualities and the activities. And so that one who thinks the Supreme Lord assumes a material body is not intelligent. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. So one thing about this, some of you may know this verse by heart. It's a famous verse. It's the 9th verse of the 4th chapter. It's one that we should know, probably quoted all the time. And so what it's a translation of that verse, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Now, the word tattvata is here. And Prabhupada would often emphasize that when citing this verse in a lecture. It means in reality, as he says, or in truth. He's one who knows. And so therefore, I've been campaigning to have that word put into the translation. It's missing from the translation. Just like when the first Macmillan Gita came out, we had the verse 934, which many devotees know, right? Manmana bhavamad bhakto vadyajim nam namaskuru, which is repeated almost at least the first 2 lines of word by word in the 18th chapter, 65th verse. So it's a very important verse, very confidential knowledge according to the 9th. This is the most confidential. What is it? Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, bow down to me. Surely then you will come to me, I promise you this, because you're my very dear friend. That's the one in the 18th chapter. But the one in the 9th chapter, the dictation that Prabhupada gave didn't exactly have these words specifically, become my devotee. And so with the editing, that was left out. So it was restored in 1983 with the second edition of the Bhagavad Gita, the restoration of Jayavada Swami. And who could argue with that one, you know? So there are certain, not every word, as you know, Prabhupada omitted the O Arjuna or something like that, then that's no big deal. But my point is that this Bhagavad Gita, what's the official name of the Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita as it is, right? What is that? Tattvataha, as it is. And he emphasizes that in the introduction, and even the preface, you know. So therefore, and here's a little incident that you probably don't know about. There was one year, I forget what year it was in the late 90s. I think Ramaswara Prabhu, who was then visiting Los Angeles, he asked me to come up and to spend an afternoon with him going over some of the revisions, because he was, you know, and what was it? What was I going to say? Anyway, because there were so many doubts about it, and so I went over some of the ones and I showed the reason for them. But this wasn't one of them. This I saw recently that this was missing. And he told the story how because he moved to New York when he left, the guruship and everything. He moved to New York back, and he started a business there. It was very successful. He had children and everything, but he went down to 22nd Avenue and had a weekly Bhagavad Gita class there because we had acquired that property. It's a holy site. Still have it. And he was giving, I think it was once a week, and he was using the Macmillan Gita. Yeah, not the new one. And but people would come and they would have their own Gitas. There's so many Gitas out there, So this fellow had his own Gita, then the 11th chapter. And there was a reading, he told me the verse, I forget what it was. And there was a phrase missing that was in the Sanskrit, and always in the word-by-word meetings it was there. But it wasn't there in the translation. Prabhupada is dictating these translations, he's trying, there's so many things going on. So, and in those days, so anyway, it was missing, but Jayawada restored it. So from that day on, Ramaswami said, "Oh, that's in our new one, so we'll use that from now on." He realized the value of it, because only in this book do people have their own Gitas. They don't have their own Bhagavatams. So it's not so essential. And there's some verses in the 5th canto that it's impossible, long descriptions of the universe and things like that. There may be some little mistakes. It's not necessary. Nobody's going to object. But in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's important, And so anyway, when you if you ever cite that verse, you can put in this thing. What is it? Here. One who knows in truth the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjun. Why? Because many people seem to know, I know Krishna. You go to India, right, and then, Krishna sweets and the Krishna, soda fountain and everything. And people hear the stories of Krishna, from the grandma when they grow up, but they're not really. So they say, yeah, I know Krishna. He danced with the gopis and this and that. And yeah, he's the Supreme Personality of God, and he's the source of everything, all of this stuff. So this is essential that when we cite this first, which is very important, because if you do know it in truth, then you go back to Godhead. So you can't know it superficially. So I just wanted to make that point. Prabhupada cites it here. One has to understand the transcendental appearance of the Lord in his original transcendental body. So in other words, one has to know it in truth. Okay, any comments or questions on these verses and these points in the purport? The main thing we're reading about here is, this detail, this wonderful appearance of the Lord, and this happens again and again in the Bhagavatam. Of course, Krishna's appearance is given the whole chapter and a half. But there's always an astrological aspect. He's appearing at just at such a right time. Lord Chaitanya did that. What was his special thing going on when he appeared? Who remembers? The eclipse of the moon, right? The eclipse of the moon. So when that happens, whether whether God is appearing or not, there's a lot of chanting of Hare Krishna. So the point was, he came with the chanting of Hare Krishna. That's his signature activity. So that's, and of course in the appearance of Krishna at the beginning of the 10th canto, there's all kinds of astrological things happening, and this, and also on the surface of the earth, the Brahmins are very enlivened. Everything's very auspicious. That's the whole point. Okay, go ahead. You have something?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, this verse, right? Janma karma chame divyam. So it says that one who knows the transcendental nature of Lord's birth and activities, right? He is liberated and he goes back to Him.
That's what it says. You go back to Godhead if you know it in truth.
True.
Yeah.
But of course that any jiva can know that in truth only by the mercy of the Lord, right? We cannot.
Yes, of course. By the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of the Lord's representative. That's understood later in the previous chapter, Tad Vidhi Pranipatena. Right. The whole Tad Vidhi Pranipatena. Tad is, at that point, is referring to the truth of different karmic activities, because it's 4th chapter, knowledge. But again, it's if you want to know it, tad vidi panipatena parivashena, then you have to approach a realized soul who has seen the truth, who is in knowledge. That's the last verse, tattvadarshi. And surrender, and before service, and proper inquiry. That's the formula. You know, it's not just a one-time thing. Yeah, you got. You know, it's an ongoing relationship. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? You have the mic. You decided not to. Vijay Krishna. I guess he just wanted to chant the. All right. If there are no questions, either locally or remotely.
No, I'm here.
Okay, Prabhu.
Dravida Prabhu, if I may, I have no question or comment, because the contents of the class, well, I do have a question. It's about if Krishna himself declares in his Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that this material world is miserable and temporary, filled with birth and death the whole time, and
it's not a question of if. He does declare that. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam.
Yes. What is the reason for the Lord to appear in such a miserable place?
The reason for the Lord to appear in such a miserable place?
Yes.
Out of his mercy. We need him. Just like Vamanadeva, he appears here because please or satisfy his ardent devotee who's performed this Payavrata ceremony so nicely, and she's in great distress, and all the demigods who are also his devotees are in great distress. So he appears in specific form, and not to kill the demons, but to save Bali, and to take the whole universe back for the cause of the demigods. So he's doing it because to relieve the anxiety and the suffering of his devotees, and that's the main reason why he comes, really. And also, as he says in the Srimad Bhagavatam at the very end of the Rasa Dance chapters, he says, what is it? I forget the Sanskrit, but I appear in this human form, my original form, and enact these pastimes so that when my devotees hear them, or when the human beings hear them, they'll become devotees, and the devotees will become more enlivened. In other words, just to enact his original pastimes, so we'll have subject matter for hearing. And the great Bhagavatam gives that in detail, and the writings of the Goswamis expands on it. So that's another reason that in order to enliven his devotees at the highest levels of prema bhakti, he'll also enact his pastimes to renew the memory of them. That's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So the answer to the question is yes. Why would Krishna come to this contaminated place? Because there's so many devotees and possible devotees here, and he wants to reclaim as many as possible, and so that's why he appears. And we just read in the previous chapters how he came in order to save the demigods. When the demons took all the nectar, so he appears as Mohini Murti in order to bewilder the mind of the demons, so that they'll give her the nectar and she'll deliver it. So these special incarnations, and he was also sitting down there as a tortoise, right? That was also Krishna. They needed a big pivot, huge pivot, so they could. So he's facilitating the deliverance and the perfection of his devotees. That's why he comes to this plane. Otherwise, he wouldn't come here. But because
because you know better than me, Lord Krishna is the supreme personification of Ananda. Why would the supreme personification of Ananda be interested in visiting well, the last time he was here, he stayed for 125 years. Why would the Supreme Personification of Ananda be interested in visiting a miserable place like the material world? But you answered my question.
Yeah, because there's so many devotees in this miserable place, or those who could become devotees. You know, I mean, every living entity is Krishna's devotee. Some are so buried, you know, there's no question of the cats and dogs really going back to Godhead. You know, I mean, it's a special case, but the human form of life, that's the whole idea. The intelligence is there where we can understand and reform our activities, surrender to the Lord, and go back to Godhead. So because there's a great possibility for helping, he comes as Krishna and comes as Lord Chaitanya. Always the same mission. But you're right, he doesn't come here to enjoy. I mean, he could just stay in Goloka, you know. But he's full of compassion. He's full of, you know, we're his children. The father will go into a dangerous place to save his child, you know. So that's the answer, as you know, as we've given, and that's another reason why we you know, why we should appreciate Krishna so much, out of his, you know, sacrificing, you know, and coming and spending all his time, taking all the trouble, and the same thing with, of course, with the great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada. So much trouble, so much austerity, so much danger, all simply to give us Krishna, and so that should inspire us to surrender and take on and kick out all remnants of Maya that are still hanging around in our consciousness.
Super quick comment.
Of course, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
May I?
Yeah, Maitreya, please, go ahead.
Haribo. So I was thinking, you're mentioning Bali's surrender, and this is the one anga he's famous for, is surrendering everything to Lord Vamanadeva.
Right.
Consider who his association was. How powerful are these different angas of devotional service? He's surrounded by demons all the time. He's not like he's hanging out hearing and chanting with devotees. He doesn't have a full morning program. You know, we don't read anything like that. And yet, even in the dark, you know, material world, surrounded by the modes and everything, by just surrendering everything to Krishna, he's exalted to the level of Mahajan, and the Lord resides on his planet in the lower realms. So anyway, just a remarkable pastime.
Yeah, I think his grandma was telling him about his exalted grandfather. The stories of Prahlad, you know. Yeah, Bali's a very interesting figure. And what's really far out, you know, okay, he's down in Rasatala, you know, which is a subterranean heavenly planet, but it's a heavenly planet. And there is Vamana. You heard yesterday, did you hear my thing about the dwarf and the dwarf Brahmin thing? I don't know if you heard it, Maitreya, yesterday.
Yeah, I've heard you comment on that.
Okay, you know about that. So anyway, and Vamana agrees to be his doorman, you know, and I guess it went on for many, many years. But then in the next Manvantara, we're in the, you know, this seventh, I guess in the eighth Manvantara, he does take the position of Bali, of Indra, you know, but he's no longer a demon, obviously. So he gets that position. But it's a special, you know, you always, I mean, the way in which Vamana figured out, you know, of course he's Krishna, he can figure everything out, how it's not going to work for me just to wipe out the demons, because they were empowered because of their surrendering to Shukracharya, the Brahmins, you know. So he needed to break Bali's faith in Shukracharya, and he did it in the most wonderful way, you know. So Krishna's always giving us more and more wonders, reasons to be devoted to him. Thank you, Maitreya. Hari Bol. All right, I think we can adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.